The Kansas City Royals just got through a grueling stretch of baseball, and now things might be looking up. We're going to talk about all that and more coming up next.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
And we are back like we never left. Jordan Foote, Joel Penfield, Josh Keiser, One Roll Away podcast here on KC Sports Network, brought to you by our partners in Possible at Emprise Bank. Extremely grateful for their support. I'm extremely grateful for the pals for jumping on the show. Josh, bottom screen, what's going on, dude?
I missed a week, and I'm happy to be back. Really wanted to talk Royals last week, and circumstances did not allow it, but everything's good. We're back in the saddle again, so happy to be here, boys. Joel, how was your week? How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Hang in there. How was your Father's Day, Josh?
It was good. Had a little shout out to Minsky's for the Joe's barbecue pizza, because that had to happen. But I got to hang out with the family, and that was good. You?
It was good. I just full busy weekend. My wife and I celebrated our 5th wedding anniversary on Saturday, and then Sunday, Father's Day. All I really wanted was to sleep in, and I got to do that. So counting that as a dub and moving on.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. We grilled. I'm not a father, but we grilled and had some alcoholic beverages and hung out. So all in good fun. The Royals, I don't know if I would call the past week all in good fun. They did go 2-4 since our last recording. When you play the Yankees and the Dodgers, that's kind of going to happen sometimes. It's just tough to play those teams. Yankees 3 times, and then LA, they wrapped up that series. They are starting against Oakland at 8:40, I want to say, so right on the tail end of this live podcast. Which is going to be a lot easier. That's kind of the theme of this show is they got through the tough teams. They got through the challenging stuff. Every team is hard to beat, obviously, but it's going to get a lot easier. So the only box score related thing that jumped out to me from the past 6-7 days was the Daniel Lynch outing. And he didn't start that because they used an opener against the Yankees in game 2. He went 6 2/3. He had a bulk of the game. Gave up 7 hits, though, 6 earned runs. He only struck out 3. He walked 2. The Daniel Lynch experience, and I almost made him my deep dive for the week. It just is Daniel Lynch. And Joel, you kind of mentioned, we talked in the group chat we have earlier on Tuesday, he just produces Daniel Lynch type outings, whether it's coming out of the bullpen, whether it's starting, whether it's AAA, the big leagues, what you're going to get with him. And the unfortunate thing, either one of you can take this, is that now we know that that's not probably an everyday big league type guy.
It's just not at this point. And it's the living embodiment of there's no such thing as a pitching prospect. That's why whenever we talk about these guys, when we do our minor league stuff at the end, gotta take it with a grain of salt because you just never know with these guys. And I thought Daniel Lynch, when the Royals drafted him and when he came up, he was going to be a middle, at worst, a middle of the rotation, solid guy. And he's never been that. And I think it's just come to a head at this point. The Royals are in a position where they're playing competitive games in the summer, and they can't afford to let Daniel Lynch figure it out at the big league level anymore. It's just not going to happen. Last 2 starts have been brutal. He obviously, got blown up in the first inning against Seattle. They won the game, but giving up an 8th spot in the first, not ideal. And then he battles through 6 2/3 against the Yankees, but it still wasn't like he gave them elite production or even really solid production in those innings. It was just saving the bullpen and just kind of being left out there to die because hey man, we don't have an off day for a couple more days. We need you to save us today. And that was about it. He threw today for Omaha and it was 6 innings, 8 hits, couple runs, 1 strikeout, 1 walk. That's just what he is. And I would not be shocked if the game that we saw on Tuesday or Wednesday, Wednesday was the game they did the opener, that might be the last time we see Daniel Lynch on a big league mound for the Royals. I think we're at that point with Michael Wacha coming back seemingly faster than we thought. They're not going to have to, go to a Daniel Lynch for another spot start. It just kind of is what it is. I'll be curious what they do with him come trade deadline time, if he's just not put into a trade as a change of scenery type thing. That might be where we're at with him. And it's just where we're at. It's what happens when you get good kind of out of nowhere. And the assessment period's done. Like, it's sink or swim, and Daniel Lynch couldn't swim with this.
I do want to bring it back to the context of the last 2 starts have been the Yankees and the Mariners, who are both pretty good offenses. One of them is the best, like 1 or 2. I can't remember where they are now, but we do need to remember that as well. In the 3 prior appearances he's had this year, which was a 12-inning sample size, he gave up 2 earned. He struck out 8, 2 walks. 7 hits. I'm with you. I understand. Yeah. I understand it. Like, you can't trust him by any means. You damn sure can't trust him against a potent lineup like the Yankees and the Mariners. I still kind of like the idea of an opener and him being the bulk guy with a guy like Will Klein or Dan Altavilla being the opener at that point. That is the recipe that you're going to have to come up with to get any kind of valuable production as a bulk inning guy from Daniel Lynch. I'm not going to say that this is the last time we see Daniel Lynch in the major league level. I think there still very much could be a situation where we still need him as a depth piece. Injuries happen. There's still a long season to go. I think there's also potential that maybe he has a little bit of velo if you move him to the pin and has some nastiness out of that pin. I think that's a possible avenue they can go down, but I'm not 100% sure about that. So at this point, like, I can understand the sentiment that this might be the last time we see Daniel Lynch on the major league roster. I can also understand the sentiment about being a change of scenery type of situation for him. But I also can see the tea leaves that this might not be the last time we see him in a major league rotation or bullpen. So we'll see. It wasn't great. There's nothing to deny about that.
We don't have to stay on this too much longer. You brought up the bullpen point. Like, at least when we talk about moving Brady Singer to the bullpen, like, the sinker slider combination in the bullpen could play up because of the way, like, the movements, like, profiles of those pitches. I don't think there's a single pitch that Daniel Lynch throws that is going to play up in the bullpen, besides maybe a couple miles an hour, more from the, from the velocity on the fastball. But even then, the movement profile and the shape of the fastball is not good enough for, even if it's 94, I don't think it's enough for it to really matter. Like, I just think he is org depth at this point, and that's all he is. And I don't know if he wants to stick around for that either.
Good luck.
The only reason we're able to have this convo is because part of the transaction roundup here, he got. You hear that just now?
Whoa. Yeah. What was that?
Some jackass just drove up the street with his big rig truck, 4x4, all that crap.
Got his truck nuts going.
Yeah. But anyway, before I was rudely interrupted, Lynch optioned to Omaha. Anthony Veneziano had an up and down. Carlos Hernandez's backup, Drew Waters, had an up and down. And then Nick Prado, I believe, as well, because Adam Frazier is off the bereavement list. There is one transaction that I do want to maybe expand on more than just mentioning it. But before that, do you guys have any box score related weekly thoughts before that kind of overarching type deal?
I had a few. Nick Prado, welcome to the pitching category. He did have a position player pitching situation go on.
Got a strikeout.
Prado got a strikeout. Yeah, and it was brought up that did he pitch in college? Is that when
high school?
He had a little bit. It was a high school. Yeah. Okay, well, maybe I don't think we got a Nate Eaton situation on our hands here, but it was kind of cool to see Prado on the mound. Q's ejection. I wanted to bring up Q's ejection there. I loved it. I just seemed like it was an overwhelming, unanimous applaud of Q getting ejected, and warranted, because that was a atrocious call. Seemed like the frustration had been mounting over a week over bad strike zones, bad calls, bad challenges. So I'm glad to see Q get tossed in that situation. And then Singer did struggle against the Yankees, but he did have a quality start against the Dodgers, who were at full force at the time, and people were still finding a reason to complain about Brady Singer. And it was a quality start. And if you're doing that against Los Angeles Angels or Dodgers, I don't know what else you want him to do. Yeah, he gave up some absolute shots to Shohei Ohtani, but
a lot of pitchers do that.
100%. He's one of the best players on the planet to ever play the game. So it just is what it is. But I thought Brady Singer didn't deserve some of the flyback he was getting, and some of the people who was like, oh, they should have pulled him, he was cooked, blah blah blah. You want to turn it over that bullpen that all of a sudden everybody has so much faith in? No, you give Singer plenty of leash in that. He was looking good until that bomb. Just let him eat, see where it gets us. And that's what Q did. I'm not faulting that for Q whatsoever. And anybody who's doing that is a Monday morning quarterback, and I don't like that.
Because if they brought in Dan Altavilla in that particular spot, and he gives up back-to-back homers, it's like, well, you should have left Singer in. He was dealing. Like, you can't win with some of these people.
100%.
Drew Waters, I will say this before I get to the larger point. Like, he did help them win the game on Thursday with hustling out that infield single, diving into first base, a la Eric Hosmer to get on, start that inning. Like, that's something. Like, I'll give him credit for that. The rest of it wasn't very good. He was swinging out of the zone a lot. The plate appearances looked much like the last couple of years. The only hit he had was that infield single. And the play in the outfield was not great. The throw that to try and cut down the go-ahead run was way up the line, not even close. It's just like, that's the sort of thing. It's like, you gotta do the little things and put that throw on line, at least give them a chance. It didn't work. And this is where I go back to, I brought it up last week, but the philosophical term Occam's razor, the most logical, the solution, the most obvious solution is usually the correct one. They don't think they left him in AAA for a reason. He was like, with how bad but if they had believed Drew Waters was we plug this guy in, it's going to work, they would have done it in early May when MJ was really scuffling. And so was Hunter Renfroe was hitting $140, and Garrett Hampson wasn't hitting, and Adam Frazier wasn't hitting, and Nelson Velasquez wasn't hitting. They would have brought him up. And then he gets and it's a small sample. I don't want to hammer him too bad, but we saw in that sample, like, oh, that's why he wasn't here on May 3rd. That's why he was still in AAA. And that's probably all he is at this point. And that's fine. Like, this is not a referendum on bringing Drew Waters in a couple of years ago in that trade. I thought that was a great process. It was a worthy swing. It just didn't work. And this is where JJ has talked about, when they look at trade deadline moves and trying to better this team for a stretch run, it's going to come from outside. They're going to make a trade for a guy that can play corner outfield in some capacity. So it's not going to be Drew Waters. He might be a guy similar to Lynch, where it's a change of scenery sort of thing, and they just try and give him an opportunity to go somewhere else, because I don't think it's going to happen here in Kansas City at this point. If it's that quick of a hook, and Hunter Renfroe is still on the shelf, which, by the way, the other side of that is probably means Renfroe is coming back faster than anticipated. But if it's that quick, that says a lot.
I think there's an update on that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was going to say, I have no new thoughts on Drew Waters at all. I'll just jump into injury updates because that's a perfect segue here. Renfroe, the bone bruise in his left big toe, was on the 10-day IL, I believe, 7 days ago. And he tweeted on Tuesday afternoon that he was progressing very well. So he should be back fairly soon. Salvador Perez had the right knee inflammation, returned to the lineup on Sunday. No one's worried about that. Austin Nola was recalled to fill in for him. Michael Wacha had a pretty impressive rehab start in the ACL. Could return for the Rangers series if things go well. He has a bullpen on Thursday to help determine that. So more good news there. And then Michael Massey, he is only going to DH in Omaha on the current rehab stint he has. That is going to be going from light baseball activity to maybe late June, early July type return. The Royals don't seem too steadfast on rushing him back in. Robert's comment is hilarious. And then Chris Bubich with the Tommy John rehab, he threw on the 14th, which was 4 days ago, 4 innings, 4 hits, couple earned, a few walks and a few strikeouts. So I did want to mention all of those. Do you guys have any quick injury thoughts whatsoever?
Massive that Renfroe and Wacha are back so quickly.
Yep.
It sounds like, at least from what Andy's most recent report, that Renfroe could join them as quickly as the weekend series in Texas, if not when they're coming back here. So
they could get both guys back for like a relatively important series. Not that Texas is world beaters, but still.
100%. And then Massey, it sounds like he's going to DH at least early until he feels comfortable enough to play second.
Yep.
Once he starts playing second base, you can start counting down the days until he's back in the lineup. And if he's able to pick up where he left off and Renfroe is able to pick up where he left off, lineup gets a little lengthier and the offense is going to be a little more consistent, but really, really good. The Royals seriously got lucky with the injuries here, that they are not as serious. They were able to come back a lot faster than anticipated.
Yep, 100%. They're definitely hoping those guys can get back in the swing of things. And man, Joel, you mentioned Drew Waters was swinging outside the zone. My swing was all sorts of outside the zone until I stopped into my friendly local neighborhood PXG. Picked up golf a few summers ago. Man, I've fallen in love with it. I haven't gotten a lot better, but just a little bit. I've really discovered how different equipment, different clubs can impact your game. I heard that phrase, no one makes golf clubs like PXG does, period. I wanted to find out if it was true, so got an opportunity to swing their Black Ops driver. Complete game changer. It was absolutely awesome. Married distance and forgiveness to perfection. Getting fitted, super cool experience. Loved the insight for each type of club shaft weight. All of that was second to none. Learned more about clubs and drivers than I thought ever existed. Having the real-time numbers and data and the feedback with your swing, absolutely rewarding. PXG made me a believer. They're going to do the same for every golfer in Kansas City. So if you visit pxg.com/onerollaway, you can schedule your fitting at PXG Kansas City. That's at 7517 West 119th in Overland Park. Get fitted for any club. You get a dozen golf balls for free. So that's pxg.com/onerollaway. Schedule your fitting, pxg.com/onerollaway. Limit 1 dozen golf balls per person. Promotion ends on June 30th, so you got a little bit of time left. Other terms and conditions may apply. See the store for details. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
So proud of you.
I tried.
That was incredible.
I went to the Kent Swanson School of watching the lab and learning how to transition from there. But I'm going to give you guys a chance to talk. These next 3 weekly takeaways kind of go all together, and I think me going last makes sense. So Joel, you have actually. I want Josh's first. Now that I'm looking over at my other monitor, I'm reading it. I think Josh, Joel, me makes the right sense.
Cool.
I would bet we have a lot of overlapping points as far as this goes, and I'll kind of do this quick because I'm sure Joel's going to cover this too. But the big stretch in my mind started on the May 20th in that Detroit Tigers series. Since then, they've gone 12-13, where they've ran a gauntlet of playoff, postseason contending teams, if not top of the mountain, ending off with these Dodgers and the Yankees series. But wanted to just touch base on a couple things. The hitters were third in runs per game at 5.2, eighth in OPS at 748. They were going against pitching staffs. There were 5 different series against pitching staffs in the top 10 in the majors. So that accomplishment in and of itself is huge. The starting pitchers were 18th in ERA, a 4.5 ERA over that stretch. They went against offenses that were the first, the second, the fourth, and the eighth, along with some other ones. But those are very good offenses they face. Same with the bullpen, 22nd in ERA or a 4.44. So what did we learn from this measuring stick run in the schedule? I think that one thing we've learned is that they belong in the conversation. They should belong in the conversation of postseason contenders. And then we kind of leave it to where they are not ready to take on the Yankees and Dodgers on paper. I think they could have stole multiple games in that Yankee series that they didn't get, and they left one on the table in that Dodgers game with the Cole Riggins start. So I think that if they make the postseason, they could be pretty squirrely, and they're a team that no other team wants to play in that postseason. So I think we've learned that about this team, and from here, we got to make some priority lists. We've already talked about JJ kind of already saying that he's got a list of things he wants. He went on Jason Stark's podcast here today. So they're looking for a little bullpen help and looking for an outfield bat that can also play the infield, which I thought was very, very interesting considering they have guys like Adam Frazier. They have guys like Nick Lofton. They have guys like Garrett Hampson. They have guys in-house like CJ Alexander that might be chomping at the bit to get up and get a little taste of that action too. Devin Mann, another guy that potentially could be in that situation. So they have guys in-house that I would like to see them get a little bit of opportunity to see what they are at the major league level. And maybe that, you don't have to go outside the organization to fill those voids that you need. But I do think that they need some trusted bullpen arms to really, really bolster the back end of that bullpen. So a guy like Tanner Scott and Hunter Harvey, those might be pipe dreams, but that would be huge for this bullpen. And I mentioned today on Twitter that Kirby Yates has my attention there against the Rangers or for the Rangers. But another like Kyle Vinnigan, Carlos Estevez could be huge for that bullpen too. So I think we saw that those needs are there, and the starting pitcher depth is also potentially a need. I don't think it's as high of a priority as the other two, especially with Walker coming back, especially with Bubic kind of getting healthy. They still got Lynch and Bolin. Veneziano's kind of the middle guy there. So I feel like this weaker schedule, and it is a bit weaker schedule, and I think you're going to talk about that, Jordan, a little bit as well, that maybe they don't need to make that the top priority considering A, it's the most expensive thing to acquire in the trade market, but also B, it's a little bit softer schedule, so maybe those weaker starting pitchers could get by and keep them in games a little bit easier than running into the Yankees and Dodgers. So that's what I kind of learned over this week. Might have bled into the last few weeks, but that's what I got for you.
Yeah, to me, it comes down to, the Royals are not the Yankees and the Dodgers, but they're still good. Like, this is not, I don't want people to miss the forest for the trees when you see them get blasted by the Yankees a couple of times. The Yankees have done that to a lot of good teams this year. So this is not indicative of, the Royals are falling off. This is their reality has set in. They're going to fall back. I don't think that's the case, guys. Like, I think this team has shown through their first 70 some odd games that they're not going away, and they are going to scratch and claw and fight. And they're going to continue. They hung with the Dodgers all weekend. And they got, now to be fair, they did get kind of lucky that Yamamoto went out early, but still, like, who knows if Trinan is still in the sixth and you still get that grand slam from Melendez. Like, it's not like, Yamamoto was dealing and then that happened. Like, they got to the bullpen and they made it work. Like, they found a way to win games. They took advantage of something like that happening. Yeah, Tyler Glass now shoved it up their ass on Sunday. He's done that all damn year. He is.
Hello.
That's why I took him to win Cy Young at 14-1. Like, I saw that and I'm like, oh yes, I'm justified in this. But it doesn't, like, this week didn't change my opinion about where I'm at with the Royals at all. Like, I still think they're a very good team that's going to be frisky in the American League playoff race. And if they actually get to the playoffs, like, they're going to be a team that no one wants to face because they're going to be so annoying.
I do agree with that. I was trying to do math on the fly here. So since the last win of the Rays series, I know that's like a weird arbitrary endpoint, but this is how it lined up in my head. They are 7-13 since then, but even then, if you do the math, they'd have to go 40-49 to finish with a 500 record this year. I don't think they're gonna do that.
No,
barring them getting really, really banged up. I don't think they're gonna play significantly below 500 ball the rest of the way. That's basically 40-50, and I don't think they're going to do that. I think they'd maybe play 500-ish ball the rest of the way, and then you're still 9 games above, blah blah blah. They're going to be at worst like a 83-84 win team, maybe, barring, again, injuries can f up a lot of stuff, so I don't want to leave that out, and a bullpen can come back and bite you in the ass. It's already kind of doing that. So we're seeing some of the stuff we talked about earlier in the year, and they're still in a good spot. The combined record of the opponents since that losing streak started, that's why I used the last game of the Rays series. Minnesota, San Diego, Cleveland, Seattle, New York, LA, 259 and 180. There's some really good teams. San Diego is the only team
they
even
played
close to below 500.
They played 4 consecutive first place teams in Cleveland, Seattle, Yankees, and
yes.
Dodgers. Like, that'll kick anyone's ass. I'm not going to act like the Royals just had a rough stretch, but they had a rough stretch. Like, they played
They
fine.
played
Like,
a rough.
and against those 4 teams, they went 5-7. Like,
Mhm.
I'll take that. I think we
Yes.
said going into that series, like, and it's not including the game that got banged. Like,
Mhm.
if they went 6, like I thought 50th percentile outcome, I think they can go 6-7. And they damn near did that. So I'm not gonna lose sleep over it at all. Like, I think they held their own just fine.
The silver lining here for them, and even if they need one, I'm not trying to say they need it, but Oakland, Texas, Miami, Cleveland, Tampa, and Colorado combined 185 and 246. And then after that, they play the Cardinals and the Red Sox, who, they could be swinging in either way by the time that happens, but they're both middling right now. So, like, they play 8 teams in a row that they can beat up on and probably will beat up on like 5 of them or something.
then-
and all year. Go ahead, Joel.
Yeah, and to take it a step further, so that takes you up to the All-Star break, that Red Sox series. You come out of the All-Star break with a 9-game homestand against the White Sox, the Diamondbacks, and the Cubs. And then you go on the road to play the White Sox to end July.
Should be a good run.
Yeah.
Should be good.
Yeah.
I was going to say, on top of that too, that those 8 teams or the series that leading up to the All-Star break, their combined run differential. Anybody want to guess at that?
Christ, not good. I'll give you that.
Minus 220.
That's a good guess. Minus 271 between combined, and that's including
Yikes.
Boston, who is around 500 right now, and Cleveland, who is Cleveland. So 17 more games against Cleveland and Minnesota this season. That's where the season will be made or break. I don't know. I don't know how the past tense of that is going to be.
Made or broke.
According to Take-a-thon, the Royals have the 6th easiest schedule in the majors. The Cleveland Indians have the 3rd hardest.
Indians,
schedule.
you did it again.
Did I say it again?
Yes.
Cleveland. I'm just going to say Cleveland from now on.
You're trying to
Cleveland,
get this show canceled. You need to stop.
I can't podcast with you anymore.
Cleveland. I'm moving on like it didn't happen. Cleveland is the 3rd hardest schedule. So they're going to have their own gauntlets coming up that we get to sit by and watch how bad they are and then completely laugh. So there is some, I think, encouraging things happening schedule-wise, hopefully in the next month or so.
All right, player spotlight time. Josh, tell me about one Salvador Perez. What do you have?
Okay, so Salvador Perez is going through a bit of a slump. That's going to happen. He was absolutely tearing the cover off the ball leading up to the last, 3 weeks or so. Since June 1st, he's slashing 159, 302, and 250. Not good, but there is one thing that jumps out in that slash line. Can you tell me what it is? It's that on-base percentage of 302 when he's only hitting 159. He is walking 15% of the time in that stretch. It is just like 17 games, but that is crazy talk about Salvador Perez that we're talking about right now. That doesn't slump. That doesn't normally slump. This might be a bit of a spike from Salvador Perez. I don't think he's ever had plate discipline even capable of this, but here we are. Salvador Perez is taking walks somehow. The other part about this is not necessarily spotlighting Salvador Perez, but realizing spotlighting the lineup around his injury on Saturday, looking at that lineup without Massey, without Hunter Renfroe, and without Salvador Perez. You had Michael, Bobby, Vinny at top 3. Then you had Nelly, Fermin, Lofton, Melendez, Blanco, and Hampson. And they won that game 7-2. Shout out MJ Melendez. But that lineup is not fun. That is the opposite of fun. Without having Salvador Perez in that lineup in some capacity, severely shrinks. And that's breaking news. I know. I'm gonna pause for the shock to wear off. Salvador Perez is very vital to this lineup, but just seeing that for one game made me realize how much kind of relies on those top 3 to 4 guys being healthy and being in the lineup. So I'm glad that it was a very short-lived with Salvador Perez that always seems to be way shorter than all expectations on the short end. But just seeing that lineup on that day kind of gave me a little bit of nervous energy, if you will. But glad he's back. Welcome back, Salvi. Keep taking those walks. Maybe hit a few dongs or something.
And all the expected stats are still way in his favor. So this is a situation where he is in a backslide a little bit right now, but the expected slug, the expected batting average, the WOBA, the average exit velo, barrel, like all that stuff is still in the upper 80th percentile or higher So he's going to come out of this at some point. With the strikeout rate down so much this year, he kind of fits into the Vinny and Michael sort of realm where they're so contact oriented that there's a certain amount of BABIP luck that they have to rely on. And when that BABIP luck, the BABIP gods are not in their favor, they're going to slump a little bit. But when it's rolling, then those hits are going to come in bunches. So I don't have too many concerns about where Salvy's at, especially since he's walking.
You kind of gave me a perfect transition into Michael Garcia. Like, that's literally the point I was going to make, with the Josh mentioning the lineup without Salvador Perez and like a guy that's kind of boomer bust for this team. And then Joel saying the expected numbers are indicative of a slightly different player. Michael Garcia hitting 247. He has an 85 WRC plus in 71 games. Been a threat on the base pads, and I'll talk about that more here in a second. He got hot in May. His OPS was almost 800. He had a 117 WRC plus. And we were like, okay, Michael Garcia is turning a corner. He's been really good. And now in June, he has a 442 OPS and a 27 WRC plus. So I dove into everything I could find. The left-right splits are still very similar to what they were last year. Against lefties, he's posting a 119 WRC plus, playing really well. Against righties, the strikeout rate is 14% higher. The slugging percentage is way down. The WRC plus is down to 77. Pretty consistent with last year. So I was like, okay, there's nothing really crazy there. What he does well, he still maintains a professional profile. He'll give you a damn good at bat. He's 80th percentile or better chase rate, whiff rate, strikeout rate, like 70th or higher hard hit, expected batting average, average exit velo, barrel rate, launch angles up from last year. He's struggling against the fastball. I did find that. Hit 290 with a 390 slug last year. This season, 220 with a 335 slug. But caveat to that, expected batting average 271, expected slugging 413. So that's kind of where the BABIP luck is running out. 344 last year overall, 283 this season. So you're seeing that variance we talked about. Defensively, still great. Whatever metric you want to look up, I'm not even going to mention all of them. He's doing great there. He's doing well in all the base running metrics compared to his position, compared to his age in general, comfortable at third base. So defensively, still a very clear plus. That's kind of carrying his value right now. Base running, very quality for the position, just in general as well. Swinging contact rates, pretty similar. The splits are similar. The offensive peripherals suggest that he's going to come around. The problem is we've kind of heard this before. And then last year he was like really good and then not so good and then really bad and then really good again and then faded towards the end of the year. This season kind of echoing that same thing. So even if this is who he is, you can still pencil him in as a starting level third baseman and be okay. The problem is the Royals and a lot of fans and even media have thought, well, he has the baseball makeup. There's more to him. If he can maximize the times he's at his best, then he can be a cornerstone franchise level piece. Is he somewhere in between, or is he just an okay to good player? Either way, not a bad problem to have, but the month of June has not been kind to Michael Garcia. Now we are 18 days into it. So I'm looking forward to talking in about a month when he's 10 games through July and has like 10 home runs or something crazy like that.
And he's getting dicked on calls.
He is.
Yeah,
he is. He's one of the unluckiest players in baseball. He's going to.
And he also had the walk off recently. Like he's doing good things and he's trying. It's just the results have been crappy.
He was one of the worst as far as like getting bad calls last year, and it's just carried over. I don't know what it is about him or his strike zone. He's not like overly small or wide, like long. I don't know.
And he's not like an asshole by any account whatsoever.
No.
Yeah, it's weird. It's kind of so like I mentioned it with Salvy. I think like Vinny and Michael are the two biggest culprits of this, where they are so contact oriented. They don't strike out a lot. They'll walk, but they're going to put the ball in play above anything else. Yep. And when you're and the good thing about Michael too is that he makes enough hard contact that it's not like Nicky Lopez where he like the BABIP luck has to be so much in his favor. But he hits the ball hard enough that you hit a ball down the line and you win a ball game like that. Like those are the kind of hits that are going to fall in your favor more often than not with how much he puts the ball in play and puts the ball in play with hard contact with regularity. So, and by the way, he might, like, Bobby gets all the shine because of how fast he is. Mike Hill might be the best base runner on the team.
Really good.
He's
like 98th percentile in like base running value or whatever the hell.
I think he's 19 of 19 stealing bases.
Yeah.
Like I almost think he needs to run more.
Yeah.
Because he picks his spots really well, but I would love for him to, like, he and Bobby to put hit and runs on in the first inning and just cause chaos. Like that would be a great way to kind of jumpstart the lineup a little bit. And then you got, 2 on for Vinny and Salvi, in the middle of the order. Could be a good, fun way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So my profile, I'm going to go to the pitcher side and talk about Alec Marsh. He was fantastic against the Yankees on Thursday. I think he had 7 strikeouts. He punched out Aaron Judge 3 times, and it wasn't like, on a ball, ball and a half outside. No, he just carved him up. 12 swings and misses. I'm getting his player breakdown up on Savant here.
12 swings and misses just on Judge.
Yeah, just so called. He had a 28% called strike whiff percentage for the game. Everything like the curveball, 33% called strike whiff, which is really good. The fastball he got 3 whiffs on. I think he got 12 overall, and just was in command for the entire game. And you kind of wondered, like, okay, well, they didn't get the Lugo start, and Singer got blown up. I don't know, man. Is this where, Alec Marsh gets shelled? And he just took the ball and kept the Royals in the game the entire time. Took a no-hitter into the 7th inning of this game. Only walked 2. I think that's the biggest thing for me is he is around the strike zone way more this year. And sure, sometimes he's a little too much in the zone, like middle with his fastball, and those get hammered. Happens. I'm not going to hammer a guy too bad for throwing strikes. So, like, if they beat you, they beat you. The thing that I thought was really interesting about his profile over the last couple of games, 2 of his last 3 starts, is he's throwing the sweeper again, which at the beginning of the year, it looked like he'd almost entirely ditched, and it was just the slider. I think he threw equal amount of slider sweeper against the Padres. He didn't throw it all against the Mariners, but he was carving them up with the slider, and there was no reason for him to, divert away from that. So he just threw that. Then he threw 9 sweepers and 16 sliders against the Yankees. And I remember him saying, and I thought it was interesting, after the Padres start, they asked him about, hey, you started throwing the sweeper again. What went into that? And he talked about, as it gets warmer, it's easier for me to throw that pitch, because when it's cold and the baseball, because of the way it's rubbed up, it's like a cue ball. He said, I can't get around the ball and grip it because it's like holding a pool cue. So like I almost had to ditch it in the early months. And then now that it's warming up a little bit, I'm sweating a little bit. I'm able to get a little tack with some rosin. He's able to kind of rip it and throw it a little bit more. So it's just an added weapon for him. And he seems really comfortable with the 5-6 pitch mix. Mm-hmm. He continues to be one of, if not the best number 5 starters in all of baseball. And I know people have kind of had the same thing that they've done with Lugo, where it's like, okay, when's the other shoe going to drop? Like, when is he going to, when is this going to all come back to earth a little bit? When is Alec Marsh going to kind of turn into the dude we saw last season? I don't know if he's going to be that guy, because he just goes out there and he's going to go out there and grind. And the expected ERA is in the mid 4.4s, but if he gives you a mid 4.4, like, that's fine. He's going to, like, I just like what I see. I kind of ran out of words there, but the bottom line is, and it's a live show, so I know this sounds really damn great. But the bottom line is, I continue to be impressed with what I'm seeing. I know some of the underlying numbers are not in his favor, but he continues to impress with what he has, and adding that extra pitch and being comfortable throwing all of those pitches. And it's like the antithesis of Brady Singer, where he's confident throwing all of his pitches, and he will do it with, pretty even splits. It makes him a much more functional weapon for this team. And Josh, we talked about this in our group chat, and we talked about, okay, wild card series, who are your 3 starters? And I think unanimously we went Reagan's, Lugo, Walker. Makes sense to me.
Mhm.
And that's not an indictment on Alec Marsh. This is where Alec Marsh could be a weapon out of the bullpen. Because he'll get up, he'll run fastballs up to 96, 97 when he needs to. You give me an Alec Marsh that can run it up to 98, touch a 99 with that wipeout slider and the changeup and the curveball and the sweeper and the sinker. That could be really, really fun. So that's where he provides a lot of value for this team too. He gives you innings as the fifth starter. He's not going to get you blown up. And you could probably stash him in the bullpen if the right situation calls for it. And he could shove there too. So he's everything this team has asked for. And he has continued to justify the move where it's like, hey, you're going to be our fifth starter, not Jordan Lyles. You're our guy. And he goes out there every fifth day and proves it. And he's throwing tonight. So I'm excited to see what he does against Oakland.
You're going to see him.
Got your back, Joel.
Yes. You're going to see
out.
Alec Marsh 2 more times. Well, 1 and 1.5, 1 3/4, whatever. I guess 1 if you're listening on Wednesday. The beauty of live podcasting. Pitching, obviously, in the opener against Oakland, and then 1 more time in the finale against Texas. That's how it's currently set up. The Royals will play Oakland, Texas, and then Miami will be in progress the next time we speak on the podcast. With that in mind, though, let's go to bets. We have not been faring too well on our bets lately. Josh, you are going bold on this one just by the sheer number of like how many starts a guy's going to have in 1 week, but you're all aboard the Cole Reagan's bandwagon for the next week of ball.
Yeah, I have no stats on this. I got a fake line of 17.5 Ks in this coming week and 2 starts, one against the A's and the other against the Marlins. I don't have any stats to back it up. I just feel it in my plums, boys. I just feel like they're going to see some worse lineups, and it's just time to shove those nerds in a locker. So Cole Reagan is going to be doing that on a regular basis. Give me over 17.5 Ks by the time we talk this time next week.
Woo!
Joel?
Love it. So this weekend, the Royals are going to head down to Texas and play at the Globe Life Field in Arlington. So it's a little bit of a homecoming for Bobby Witt Jr., Dallas-Fort Worth native. I got him over a half a homer during that series. He's due for a little bit of a power surge. Like I think it's going to happen. I don't think he's going to be south of 30 home runs this year, and he's sitting at 11 right now. He hasn't homered since that 2-homer game against Cleveland. I think he's going to get one in his little homecoming series there in Texas.
I'm taking the Joshua role. I'm fading the Kansas City Baseball Royals on Saturday. I'm going Dane Dunning to get the W, not just Texas, him specifically. 4.73 ERA on the year, but it's a 3.76 at home. The Royals, against the Royals, he's given up a 546 OPS in 7 games. That's his 4th best against any opponent. Notable OPS splits against him: Adam Frazier 593, MJ Melendez 714, which people would take that from him. But Salvador Perez 286, Bobby Witt Jr. 393. It's going to be ugly one way or another. Like either the Royals are going to absolutely shell him and break this kind of trend that he's developed, or he's going to shut him the hell down. I'm going with the latter, but because I said that, I'll be dropping to, I think that would make me 4-7 on the year.
Okay, so
he's going to shove.
We've talked about this, and we have talked about punishing ourselves for these bets. And at what point are we just going to say, okay, we need to make that happen?
I think when we get to 10, it has to
I was about to say 10.
Somebody gets to the
okay,
10,
so what's
we need an equalizer, though, because Josh is 1 bet behind, and I'm 1 bet behind Joel.
I'll think next week I'll bring 2 bets to the table.
I will say, Jordan, cool. When you get to 10, because you're going to here in short order, the pitch speed video is coming out.
You have more losses than me.
I know. I'm just telling you. No, I'm telling you. I know. I'm just telling you that's going to be your punishment.
I'll leak it my own damn self.
You're just going to you're going to 8-mile it.
Control the narrative.
Say that it was fake. Yeah, I'm going to say it was doctored.
It was an AI doctored video.
I wish it was fake. Man.
Deep fake.
Let's talk minor leagues, because those guys throw a little bit more than 55 miles an hour. 49. Was it even 55?
It was 49.
I don't know.
So either way, more than 49. AAA Omaha still balling, +84 run differential. Kevin Podlow got upgraded. Upgraded's not the word. I don't know why I said
Called
that.
up.
Elevated, moved up. He technically got upgraded from Double A to Triple A. Rodolfo Duran, who's been playing some good ball, had the same happen. Brady Vaughn says betting cages first 95 mile an hour fastballs better get a hit in 5 tries, otherwise you have the other 220 each. I like that a lot, actually.
Oh, there's no
95
way.
is a little steep, but
I ain't
like
touching 95.
75 maybe.
Ooh.
Oh my goodness. I don't even know if I'm touching 75.
I've never stood in a box above a 70, I don't believe. So
We could do something with a batting cage bet though. That'd be fun. I'm gonna
be fun.
star that one so we can look back to it after the pod.
yeah, we've got
Colin
some ideas.
Selby,
That's a good one.
Yes. Colin Selby activated from the 7-day IL, and then Anthony Simonelli, who has been balling, got sent from AAA to AA. My standout player, John Rave. We haven't talked about him too much on this podcast. Kind of been a little bit under. I was going to say there's a caveat to that. One specific guy has been all over John Rave. He's been all over baseballs.
Hopefully not
late.
literally. Poor John Rave.
Not quite your best friend, but pretty close. 289 batting average, 122 WRC plus. The last month, an OPS over 1,000, 156 WRC plus, 12% walk rate. The ISO is 278 over that span. Like John Rave's kind of raking more than he ever has. 10 home runs in 58 games. I don't know if there's anything there. He's not exactly a young prospect anymore by any means, but I'm a guy that is often like an afterthought almost with people, and people don't want to bring him up. He's been playing some good ball, Josh. I thought you would appreciate that.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. I think I may have built the John Rave train, and I am welcoming all bodies aboard my train. So I love me some John Rave. We'll hopefully see him in the majors at some point. He's got his metrics are pretty good as well. The exit velocities are not great, but the approach is there, discipline's there. I like it. So I like that. We'd also need a shout out before we go too much further into this. The Omaha Storm Chasers are your first half champions of the International League. Was it South or is it North? I can't remember which division they're in, but that is a punching of the ticket to the postseason series. So shout out to the Omaha Storm Chasers and their win. So toast game of this nice holiday soft red wheat bourbon that I'm going to taste right now.
Good stuff. Joel, what you got?
So I'm going to talk about John McMillan, the whammer. People have been kind of waiting for when he's going to get an opportunity. The walks were horrendous early in the year. That was pretty much all he was doing. But since May 19th, he's got an ERA of 2.89, opponent's batting average hitting .94, 12 strikeouts to 2 walks in 9.1 innings. So that is, that's a much better sign that he's getting back. He got banged up a little bit in spring training, which, kind of hampered, things a little bit for him, but he could be a guy down the stretch that if they, bolster the bullpen externally, he could be an internal option that can be that high velo, electric guy in the back end we've kind of been waiting on.
Josh? I skipped over you.
No, it's fine. Letting that bourbon set in. My spotlight, swinging a hot bat all year, especially here lately, but this last week, CJ Alexander was a man on fire. 28 plate appearances, 12 hits, 2 doubles, 2 triples, a home run, a walk, and 8 strikeouts, which is what CJ Alexander does. All those things, except for maybe the triples, are a little bit not very common, but he does strike out a lot. His exit velocities, he hits the crap out of the ball. One of the few guys in Omaha that can put up major league exit velocities on a consistent basis. So CJ Alexander did have a great week. Got to spotlight him. His average exit velocity over the last week was an 86 miles per hour. His max exit velocity was 109.4. Both of those are pretty fun. His chase rate was 40.5%.
Woo!
That's a lot. That's a very high chase rate, and that's not too acceptable in the major league. So I think that's kind of why we haven't seen him. He did get pulled from the game today. Did not look like there was an injury involved. I could see that being a possibility with him having sent out Drew Waters and looking for a guy that can play the outfield and the infield. So he does hit from the left side as well. So There's a case to be made for CJ Alexander to be potentially getting a shot at the major league level. He would require a 40-man spot. They have a few of the options there that they could go with, but CJ Alexander did have a great week. I did kind of run through some of the profiles, and I sent them to you earlier. They are interesting. The guys at the major league level that are doing similar things, exit velocities, swinging strike rate, chase rate, they're doing it at the major league level compared to what he's doing at the Omaha level. But like Zach Neto, Logan O'Hoppe, is it Hope or Hoppy?
It's O'Hoppe.
Okay. I heard someone say that, and I did not think that was true, but that is his name apparently. Brian De La Cruz from Miami, Brian Reynolds, which was surprising, Starling Marte, Jazz Chisholm, and Jorge Soler are all guys that do what CJ Alexander has been doing at the AAA level. So thought that was an interesting group, especially with the Marte and Chisholm kind of being trade candidates for the Royals at this point. Maybe CJ Alexander finds his way to the major league roster. We'll see.
There is a case to be made for him to get a shot. There's a case to be made for Beck Way to keep getting used out of the freaking bullpen. This year, it's been something that has unlocked him a little bit. The FIP is like almost 200 points higher than the ERA, so I do want to point that out. But 31 strikeouts to 15 walks in 28 innings. The last month of pitching, 8 out of his 10 outings have been scoreless. That strikeout to walk ratio is like 2.5 instead of just over 2. He's allowed 8 hits, 1 home run in 11.1 innings pitched over that span. So he's playing well. Northwest Arkansas hovering around 500. They're 31-32 entering Tuesday, plus 19 run differential. So hanging around there, Beckway playing well. Joel, what you got?
I'm just here with your Gavin Cross update because that's apparently all I do on this show. But, I'm just going to, if I'm just going to commit to the bit, I'll just do it.
Give the people what they want. That's what they want.
I mean, I was as skeptical as anybody coming into the year before we found out that he got Rocky Mountain spotted fever. I was like, okay, give him a mulligan. Let's see where we're at. The first month of the year was really bad. And it's like, okay, well, maybe this is just who he is. Since May 1st, slashing 333, 400, 567. That's a 967 OPS with a 163 weighted runs created. Plus, he's got 7 home runs, 28 RBIs. The ISO is like 233. And he's gotten the strikeout rate down in that stretch to 23%. That's pretty manageable for him. Walking 11%, bring that up just a little. And I think we're looking at a really potential impact bat for the Royals. Not this year. I know people have talked about that. I know that's been a little bit of a talking point. The last year was so horrendous before he got sick, and then he got sick, and now he's kind of figured it out. I don't want to rush the guy. I wouldn't be shocked if like July 1st, he's in Omaha. You let him finish the year there, go to the fall league. And then if he's crushing the ball as a non-roster invite in spring training, early 25, let's have that conversation then. I do think if he continues on this path, we're talking May of next year, he can be your starting right fielder for the long haul. I think he is that good. I think he is fixed, so to speak. The swing is all the way back. It looks synced up. And when he hits the holy living shit out of the ball when he makes contact. And he had 2 home runs this past week, coming off of a brief stint on the injured list. One ball, 415 pole side. It was like on top of a building in the outfield. It was like, geez. And the most impressive swing was it was a slide. It was like a backdoor slider. They were trying to spot on the outside corner, and he barreled it and punched it out to left center midway up the berm. That is stupid power. So he seems like he's putting it all together. He's almost getting too good for the level. So I want to see him in AAA and just see what he's got. And if he hits to what he's doing right now, the Royals hit on a first-round pick that they desperately needed to hit on over the last couple of years. Because the first-round pick since Bobby, kind of waiting to see. I think Gavin Cross might be a hit at this point. Like I feel very confident with what he's doing.
And if you get a legit bat for a corner outfield spot with as good of a glove and as athletic as he is, that is a home run, dude. That is huge.
Now, I know that he plays some center field for Northwest Arkansas. I do not believe he is a center fielder in the big leagues. I think he profiles as a corner outfield. The other thing I thought was interesting is that he doesn't get enough credit for the athlete that he is. 13 stolen bases, 1 caught stealing in the last month and a half as well. So he could flirt with a 25, 30 homer season and 20, 25 bags. Like, I think he's got that type of athleticism in him, but it's going to be from the corner. I don't think it's going to be from center field.
Also with him, and not that they would delay or ignore signing someone or trading for someone because of that, but could be used as justification if they have a quiet offseason in the corner outfield and people are complaining. I wanted to use another word, but we're doing live podcasting here, and I don't want to make editing difficult. Oh, the Royals didn't have a corner outfielder. They're stupid, blah, blah, blah. You'd be like, okay, well, Gavin Cross finished the year on an absolute tear, maintained it in AAA. Like, it puts them on that type of like trajectory where, again, you're counting on an unknown early in the season to come up and help you make a push in 2025. But, that stuff does matter, and I do think that that's important. So he's balling out. High A Quad Cities, not so much. They're 8 games
Not so
under
fast,
500.
my friend.
Oh,
We have
I
one
keep cutting
more
you off,
badass
Josh.
to talk about.
Yeah,
I don't know
Josh,
what
you're just
happened
done.
last week. I don't know what happened last week, Jordan, but I can't miss any more shows apparently because Jordan just wants to leave me out from here. Javier Vaz, we need to talk about him again. We talked about him a few times this season. Very impressive week, doing things that Javier Vaz does not usually do. 21 plate appearances last week, 7 hits. That's pretty normal. 3 home runs, and they were not cheapies. He got into some balls last week. 1 double as well to go with it. Still walked 1 time and only struck out once. So on the year, he has a 767 OPS. He's walking more than he's striking out. Since May 1st, he's 834 OPS, still walking 5% more than he's striking out. Since his promotion to AA last August, 785 OPS, walking more than he's striking out. There's a trend there. And we've talked about it a little bit in the past, but we've talked about maybe a Nicky Lopez comp on him a little bit. I think he's got more speed than Nicky Lopez does. I don't think the glove is nearly as good because, Nicky Lopez is near Gold Glove caliber.
That's the only reason he stuck around.
Correct. And that is at a valuable position at shortstop for most of the time and then a little bit of second base as well. Javier Vaz is going to have a good enough glove to stick at second base, and he's been playing a little bit of left field as well. But in 578 plate appearances in AA as the same age from June 17 to June 18, Nicky Lopez had a 720 OPS, 8.5% walk rate, and a 9% K rate. So right now, Javier Vaz is producing a little bit more at that level. I still think overall the contributions and the value could be the same as Nicky Lopez, but Javier Vaz right now is being fast-tracked seemingly to get to Omaha very, very soon. He's due for a promotion. See what he can do in Omaha and see what we got in a big league roster potentially next year. Let's go to high A.
I was going to say, Shane Panzini from the 7-day IL to the 60-day IL, not great news. Chris Brito upgraded. I keep saying upgraded, elevated from Columbia to Quad Cities. I think the new bit is for me to skip over Josh on like every segment. I like
Cleveland elevations.
Yeah, the Cleveland elevations and me not asking for Josh's opinion. But I'm actually going to request it here because I do want to hear about both of these guys, but really I just want to hear about one of them.
Yeah, because we talk about Carter Jensen all the time. Last week, not a great week for him. 21 plate appearances, 5 hits, 1 double, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, and 2 stolen bases. So not Carter Jensen's finest week, but he still needs to be promoted as soon as possible to AA. Steven Zobak had a good start. 6 innings pitched, no earned on 2 hits, 0 walks, and 7 strikeouts. Doesn't usually strike out a bunch of guys. He only has an 18% K rate on the year. I don't know what to make of him. He's got solid numbers across the board there in high A, but he's still pretty old for that level. So I don't necessarily know if I'm keeping an eye on him and hoping that he's going to turn into a guy long term. But putting up a stat line this does make it a little bit intriguing for other teams, I'm sure, in trade packages in this offseason. So I think Steven Zobak is at least doing enough to be interesting enough to be in conversations at the trade table. But right now he did have a good week. And he's had a good season so far, so let's see what he can do at the next level.
I don't have much from high A, but I do want to mention Justin Johnson, who was a mid-round pick for the Royals last year at a Southern Miss. Rocked a 563 on base this week in 4 games, 5 walks and 2 stolen bases. So, not kind of a non-prospect-ish type guy. He's only got where's the number here? I got a 71 weighted runs created plus, but had a solid week, and so give him a shout.
I was not familiar with Brett Squires' game. 310, 391, 495 slash their 148 WRC plus 9 home runs and 14 stolen bags in 57 games. The month of June hitting 380 with a 166 WRC plus. Just wanted a brief shout out to him. I'm jumping to Columbia. They're playing a lot better ball as of late. They're now 7 games above 500. The run differential keeps growing. Gerald Rosado is my shout out spotlight player. I believe Josh had him last week, and then I felt a little bit bad when I took him this week, but it also gives me another chance to skip over Josh. So love that. 2.42 ERA in 26 innings, 35 strikeouts to 6 walks. He's been balling, no runs allowed, 1 hit in his last 5 appearances, 10 strikeouts in 7.1 innings. So he doesn't need to be there anymore after a while. He just keeps dominating. But that's my shout out, Josh. I kid, I do want your opinion. Who do you have for Columbia?
Another guy we've talked about quite a bit. I think we all love Blake Walters, what he could potentially be. He was a 2nd-round pick last year. There's a little bit of helium coming into spring training. I think there was some talk about his fastball being the best in the system, which is interesting. But not having a great year on the year. He's 10 games started, a 4.76 ERA, striking out 20% of his batters, walking 10% of the batters. Last week, he had 1 start, 4 innings pitched, 2 earned, 5 hits, 3 walks, and 2 strikeouts. It was a very interesting game to watch. I watched it today to kind of get caught up here. His first 2 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 4 hits, 1 walk, and 1 strikeout. He was throwing a lot of those fastballs. Command was a bit sketchy, but he was getting kind of hit pretty hard on those fastballs, but I just couldn't believe how often he was throwing just fastballs. And they started mixing and breaking in off speed the next couple innings. 2 innings, 0 earned on 1 hit, 2 walks, and still 1 strikeout. So I think he is a superior pitcher with the use of the changeup and the slider that he has. The slider looked really, really good. Changeup didn't have much to it, but it was still there. And then, like I said, he was yanking those fastballs a little bit. So it was interesting to kind of get a little taste and see what he was doing, what his strategy was, and kind of keep an eye on him as well. But not the strongest start for Blake Walters in 2024 so far.
Josh, I would just like to let you know that while you were talking, Nick Lofton just hit his first big league homer.
Yay!
What a guy. What a guy.
Congrats to Thick. Great job.
So my shout out for Columbia. Guy's a non-prospect at this point, but I'm just happy to see him have some success. Eric Pena / 333, 462, 762 this week, 5 extra base hits, 6 RBIs, 3 stolen bases. He's just not the guy that we thought he was going to be. This is his 3rd go round in Columbia. But he's still a young kid. I'm glad to see him playing. He's still showing up to the yard every day. He's still grinding, and he's having some success now. So that deserves to be shown, because he could have walked away just that easy for being the hyped up international kid that he was. And, to be a highly touted, to go from a highly touted prospect to stuck in low A, it says a lot about who he is, I think, at this point.
Yep. I would like to take about 5% of the credit for that, because I gave the eulogy on him, I want to say 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. And he's playing better ball. So the jinx is alive and well. I don't have any toast game this week. The Royals are in the doghouse until they have a winning week or maybe a 500 week. So no positive toast game. Josh, I don't know what you have, but Joel, I do know that you have something that is well needed for a baseball podcast to at least touch on.
Yeah. So right before we went live, it was announced that Willie Mays passed away at the age of 93. Sucks for the game of baseball. A life well lived, a baseball life well lived. Just to read some stats here: career 301, 384, 557, a 155 OPS plus for his career, 660 home runs, 3,200 hits, I think it was 2 MVPs, made an All-Star game, and he played 23 years and looks like he made the All-Star game 18 times. Won a Gold Glove, 1, 2, 3, 4. What do we got? 12 Gold Gloves. 24-time All-Star. I'm sorry. Won a batting title, won a World Series. One of, if not the greatest baseball players ever. He is on the short list of if you want to have the argument that they're the greatest baseball player ever, that you can have that conversation. Like it is like Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, Barry Bonds there. And your list is pretty much done there until Shohei's done playing. But if you want to say that the greatest baseball player that ever laced him up passed away today, you are well within your rights to say that. So cheers to him. A life well lived. Rest in peace to Willie Mays.
Yep, absolutely. All right, fellas, I think that's going to do it for us this week. Massive thank you for jumping back on, Josh. Good to have you back. Everybody that tuned in on YouTube and will listen on Apple or Spotify, however you're getting your podcasts on Wednesday, maybe even Thursday. Sorry that Joel may have jinxed Alec Marsh. We will find out at the end of that start if he actually did that. But again, thank you for everyone who tuned in live, everyone that's tuning in after the fact, and we'll be back a week from now to talk some more baseball. So until then, thanks a lot.
See y'all.